Hey guys, Julian here, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make dark melodic techno like Recondite. So, as usual, you can get the project file and the samples from this video and the MIDI and presets and all that kind of stuff in the description. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because they'll be available shortly. And yeah, let's get started. So, the first sound we have here is this lead, which sounds like this. So I'll show you the notes for this one first. Basically, it's pretty simple. It's kind of just following like an F minor kind of thing. Like you can see, these are all just notes from the F minor chord and the F minor scale. That's the key we're in, is F minor. Like we have F, which is the root note. We have C, which is the fifth. C sharp is only one semitone up from the fifth. Pretty simple there. You know, D sharp. These are all just very standard kind of like F minor sounding notes. And then you can hear we just kind of have this sort of like dark, I guess, kind of thing where you can hear like it's following the chord progression. Like we hit this note, and then like these notes play, and then when it goes to the next chord, then we have this note, you know, stuff like that. It's pretty simple, honestly. Like I said, it's just kind of following like a very F minor sounding pattern. So for the sound on this one, I made this using analog. And what we have here is we have a square wave, and then we also have a saw wave. And then those two are just going into this low pass filter. You can see we've got a bit of an envelope on that. We've got the attack kind of like that. With this sound, you know, it's meant to be kind of a bit darker. And I want it to sound almost like a sine wave, like that same kind of like less harmonically rich sound. Like if we start opening up this filter, it kind of gets away from that like dark kind of ambient sound. So yeah, just kind of having the filter low and then having like a really small envelope on there really helps for that. After that, just have the amp envelope set like that. And then the last thing that we have inside of here is just a bit of vibrato. As you can see, I've just got that at like 52%. We got the rate up there. And that is it for inside of analog. After that, we have this echo here, which is just doing dotted eighth notes. Delay and reverb are very important for this kind of sound. So yeah, just have that on there, just kind of giving it some delay. Then we've got this reverb. You can see I've got the decay time up. I've got the dry wet set like that. Pretty straightforward stuff. You can definitely hear that pretty prominently in the sound. After that, I just have this drum bus. And what this is doing is a few things. For one, it's kind of beefing the sound up. So if I play it without it, and then with it, you can hear it's kind of making everything a lot fatter and bigger sounding. But also you can hear what it's doing is as the reverb and the echo come into it, I've got it after the echo and the reverb, it's kind of like distorting those signals a little bit, and we're getting a little bit more of like a crunchy, kind of like cool texture on the reverb. And then when you have like a lot of, like when you have one note, you don't get it as much, but then when you play a lot of notes, then you start to get it even more. So that's kind of cool. You know, it's just a nice way to create a cool kind of like distorted reverb texture. And then the last thing we have on here is just an EQ8 cutting out the low end, and that is it for the lead. So the next thing I have here is this first ARP, which sounds like this. So what this is doing is it's just basically following like this kind of pattern where it's going G sharp, and then C sharp, and then C, and then F. So it's basically just notes from the F minor chord, save for the C sharp. Like we have F, which is the root note, we have C, which is the fifth, and then G sharp, which is the minor third, and then we just add in that little C sharp there. And then this just kind of keeps going throughout. And then this is sort of like a background layer. Like this is meant to be more kind of like ear candy, kind of like what you would do with like a drone or something like that, where like, you know, we have like our main things like this lead. And like that little arp. And then we have like elements that are kind of more in the background, like these ones. And they're all equally important, but yeah, that's basically what this is doing. It's just kind of adding some extra musical stuff in the background. So for the sound on this one, I've used operator. All this is just a square wave going into a low pass filter. You can see we've got an envelope on there, so that's what's giving it that kind of like, little sound, and then that is it for inside of operator. After that, you can see I've got this echo, just doing dotted eighth notes, kind of similar to the lead. It's just kind of like having a lot of like echo and reverb with a sound like this. Just adds to the ambience and makes it feel even bigger and more spacey. After that, we just have a bit of reverb. Again, pretty straightforward. Just got the dry wet there, got the decay time there. And the last thing that we have on the sound is just an EQ8 cutting out the lawn. Like I said, this one's really simple. It's just meant to be kind of like an extra sort of ear candy layer in the background. After that, we have the second ARP, which sounds like this. So what this is doing is it's just playing these three notes. It's just going C, C sharp, and then F up top. And this is meant to be more like a lead. Like this kind of just comes in there after everything has been kind of going on and on. And just adds like that extra little bit of like a lead synth there. So for the sound on this one, this is made using wavetable actually. So the way that I made this is basically I just have a saw wave and that's going into this low pass filter. And then we have, you can see the envelope here. That envelope is also controlling the filter. You can see that opening up there. And then the only other thing I've got going on inside of wavetable here is this unison. And so this is why I like using wavetable, because it's got this really big unison. But basically, I've just got this on the classic mode, and then we've got the voices at 6, the amount of 34%. So here's without the unison. And then with it. So you can hear it just kind of gives it that like more chorusy, kind of like super saw type of sound. And this is something I've heard in a lot of Recondite's music as well. Like he'll use like kind of arps like this that are more chorusy sounding in a lot of places. So then after that I have 2 delays. So what's going on here is basically I have this ping pong delay doing like a stereo 8th note delay. So you hear that, and then on top of it I have this echo doing a mono dotted 8th note delay. So basically what's happening is we have like this one, which is just like that wide kind of stereo delay you hear, and then this one, which you can hear is adding in those kind of like a little bit more intensity to the rhythm there with the delay, and making it ring out a little bit longer. So this is a really good technique for techno, melodic techno, really anything that's like really rhythmic like this. Just kind of stacking delays like this and getting like the combination of both of them can make really interesting sounds, and you'll get sounds that like you wouldn't have thought to come up with otherwise, as well as like sounds that you just couldn't make with one delay. So definitely recommend playing around with that. After that, we just have a bit of reverb. You can see I just have the set like this. The sound is pretty sparse. There's a lot of space in between the notes because it just plays this little like quick stab thing here. So there's a lot of room to have kind of like a longer reverb with a sound like this. After that, we just have this drum buzz. You can see I've got the drive up a bit. I've got the crunch there. This is just kind of adding a bit more like fatness to the sound. You can hear when I turn it off and back on again. Yeah, it just kind of helps to add a bit of like saturation and texture and kind of warmth to the sound. And the final thing we have on here is just an EQ8 cutting out the lawn. And that is it for that second ARP. So the next thing that we have here is these hi-hats, which sound like this. Basically what these are is these are 2 hi-hats, which are both made pretty much the exact same way, and then I have them grouped together with a bit of processing on the group. So the first one sounds like this, and this is made using operators. So basically what we have here is you can see I just have some white noise with an envelope like this going into a bandpass filter, and what's happening is we have the white noise, and then you can hear the bandpass is what kind of shapes it to sound more like a hi-hat. So it's a really good technique. You guys who watch all my videos know that I do this quite a bit, but it's just a really good way to make hi-hats because you have like so much control over the sound, you know? You can really do like anything. Like we can have there's so many different types of hi-hats, and even like if you start going in, you know, you can just do so much with this. So yeah, after that, I have a bit of erosion. This is just on here. It's kind of like adding a bit more crunch in the high end and kind of giving it a bit more grit. After that, we just have an EQ8 cutting out the lawn, and then finally I just have a little bit of reverb just to give it some space. So then the next one sounds like this. And you can hear this one is just playing 16th notes. So with this one, I was going for more of like a shaker type of sound. So what we have here is just some white noise with a bit of an attack on it. And then that's going into a bandpass. Again, same thing. The bandpass is just a little bit different on this one. So the key here is just to make this one a little bit brighter. And then you can hear the 16th note hi-hat is a little bit darker. So it kind of brings out the one on the upbeats more, this one. And then it puts this one a little bit more in the background. And then after that, I just have a bit of erosion. Again, very similar to that first one where it just kind of adds a bit of grit and kind of texture to it. And that is it for those. So then on the group, I just have this drum bus. So this is just kind of helping to glue these together and kind of like bring them into the track. Here's without it. And then with it. So you can hear it just adds a bit of like kind of thickness to everything, as well as just giving everything a little bit more space in the mix. So the next sound we have here is this drone, which sounds like this. So this is really simple. It's just like this kind of drone sounds playing throughout the track. It's just playing G sharp. That's the minor third because we are in F minor here. And basically all I have this doing is it's just a simple FM sound. We just have 3 sine waves here just kind of playing off of each other. You can see I've got them detuned a little bit and I've got the chorus pitch on the second one up. And then those are just going into a bandpass filter to just kind of like dial it back a little bit. And then I've got this LFO on the volume of oscillator B. So it's kind of like modulating it a little bit. And you can hear making it sound, you know, like it's kind of like changing and morphing throughout the track. After that, we just have a little bit of reverb, and that's it for that drone. It's a really simple sound. But yeah, so the next thing we have here are the chords, which sound like this. So this is more of a background layer. This is kind of like the implied chord progression, I feel like. I didn't want to have this just playing like one note the whole time through. And you know, this chord progression works really, really well with that lead. So that's kind of what I have going on there. So it's just playing these chords. They're just triads. We just have major and minor triads here. And then I've just taken the middle notes, the thirds, and put those up an octave. And you can hear it kind of spreads the chords out and just makes them sound a bit bigger. So then for the sound on this one, I made this using analog, and what we have here is just 2 saw waves. I've got the first one detuned a little bit. Those are going into a bandpass filter, pretty straightforward there. And then the only other thing we have inside of analog there is just a bit of vibrato at the end. After that, I have a bit of chorus just to give it some kind of like chorusy dimension and make it sound a bit deeper. And then we have a bit of reverb to give it a little bit more space. You can hear that one. And then at the end of the chain there, we just have the saturator, which is kind of like crunching everything together and hoping to give it more texture. This is kind of similar to what I did with the lead, where it's like you put the reverb into some kind of saturation or some kind of distortion or something like that, and it gives you a cool texture. That's what's going on there. And then it's also, again, just kind of adding like a lot of texture to the overall sound. And the final thing we have here is just an EQ8 cutting out the low end, and that is it for the chords. So the next sound we have here is the kick, which sounds like this. And so this is like a pretty standard kind of techno kick. The cool thing about a lot of Recondite tracks is that he will use like a kick like this, where it's like a standard kind of techno rumbly kick, but then like with a more melodic track like this. So I was trying to sort of encapsulate that here. So this is the kick and the bass basically. And what we have here is we have this kick, just kind of like a punchy sort of like techno kick. And then I have it going through this audio effect rack to give it the sort of rumble. So what we have here is we have a dry chain and then a wet chain. And what's happening is I have them kind of blending together. And then that wet chain is what's giving it the rumble. So basically what this is I made this using a delay. So we have basically this. So here's the dry sound. And then it's going into the delay, which is doing those 16 notes. You can see, yeah, pretty simple there. And then that is going into this amp, which you can hear is distorting it and kind of bringing out like that rumbling low end. And then finally we just have this auto filter, which is focusing on just the rumbling low end. And then when you blend that in with the dry signal, there we go. We get a pretty nice sort of like rumbly techno kick. And I like doing it this way. A lot of times people will do it with like a reverb instead of a delay. Like we put a reverb in here. That sounds cool too, but I like the delay because it makes it kind of have more of an intense sort of rhythm that I feel like adds to the overall just power of the track. And then after that, after the audio effect track, I just have the saturator, so we just have a bit of drive, and then I've got the wave shaper here. Here's without it. And then with it. So you can hear it just kind of beefs the kick up a little bit more and just gives it a bit more power in the mix. So that's the kick. The last thing we have here is just a little bit of vinyl noise. You can hear this is really simple. It's just some vinyl noise playing in the background. Something Recondite does a lot. A lot of techno producers do it, but it just helps to add more texture and kind of like overall ambience, I guess, to the track, you know. And it kind of helps to put it in a space where you feel like, you know, you're listening. You're not just listening to like some sounds, but you're really listening to a track that has texture and has its own kind of feel. So with that, that's pretty much it for this one, guys. I just want to show you a bunch of techniques to make this kind of like darker, more melodic techno sound. So that's me for today, everybody. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Let me know what you want to see, what video you want to see me make tomorrow as well. As usual, you can get the project file and the samples from this video and the MIDI and the presets, all that kind of stuff in the description. So make sure to check there. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it'll be available shortly. Thank you so much, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.